The big game is set, and what do you know? It's two defensive-minded coaches. I guess they can be head coaches after all. We'll discuss that and more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. Because it's your team every day, I am Tony Wiggins here with my main man, Julian Council from Locked On Panthers. And what we're going to do is take a quick peek around the National Football League with the use of local experts to keep you up to date on every single thing that is going on. And y'all know what's going on. What's going on is the champions of each conference has been set. So we'll make sure we get to that today. As we do every day here on Locked On NFL, we are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network, and we're glad to have you. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the job hunt and 2026 hopefuls. We'll hit that in segment 3. In the middle, we'll talk about free throws and why they seem like coaches seem like they're allergic to field goals, not free throws. It should be considered free throws since they're easy to obtain, right? But they just keep walking away from them, and it's costing them games, and it did yesterday. First and foremost, though, a matchup of defensive minds is what we will get in the next Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Seahawks. Julian Council, first of all, welcome to the show. As always, yesterday was a game that was sort of a reckoning. We'll talk about Mike Vrabel in just a second but his situation in Tennessee is a microcosm of this entire thing. And what that is we're going to get away from these defensive coaches and we're going to all the analytical geniuses and all of the play callers and all of those guys. And what do you know? You look up and there's two old school guys that come from that defensive cloth in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, hiring the best coach, that's what you're trying to do. It doesn't really matter whether they're a defensive guy, a special teams guy like a John Harbaugh, or offensive, which has been obviously what everybody's been looking for over the last couple of years is that new offensive genius, because the worry is that if you have success with a defensive coach and your offense is great, that then that offensive coordinator will go get a head coaching job. But if you are an owner that wants to hire that offensive coach, there is no guarantee that guy is going to be a good head coach, because it's more than just calling plays on the sideline. It's how can you manage people? How can you motivate? And then situationally on game days, how can you handle that? And you look at Mike Vrabel from his time in Tennessee to this season in New England, he coaches circles around all of these guys, just how he handles football situationally. I think a lot of that is him having played for Bill Belichick and also his time spent in the league as a player. So, yeah, go ahead. Go get your young offensive guru. There's plenty of guys that we saw like Sean McVay that have had success. Kyle Shanahan have had success. Liam Cohen in 1 year down in Jacksonville. But it's not just as simple as go get the offensive coach and then things will be great. Just go get the best coach.
Go get the man with the plan. And yesterday he had one. I'm going to give you a similarity. We didn't have him mic'd up yesterday, but back when the Rams and Patriots played, when Tom Brady and Belichick was there, I remember a video on the sideline. It was a 10-3 game, and he went to the defense. Belichick took his headset off and said, just do your job. They have nothing. There's nothing they can do. Do your job. And it seemed like to me at some point, with the weather being where it was and with Jarrett Stidham being at quarterback, at some point yesterday during the game, especially after the half, when they started running the ball down Denver's throat, it is almost as if he told his defense, don't worry, and his offense, they can't do nothing. Don't worry about it. And he was right. And that's exactly what you mean by coaching circles in situational football, where it's not on a data sheet, but it's in your brain. Here's my man, Nick Cattles. He's ecstatic that the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl from Locked On Patriots.
Oh, my freaking goodness. The Patriots are headed to the Super Bowl in the middle of a blizzard in Denver. Can you freaking believe what we just saw? Mike Vrabel, just so smart. His usage of the clock late in this game. Drake May with the huge conversion to end this football game. The Patriots' magical carpet ride continues. They head to the Super Bowl. They will get the winner of the Rams and the Seahawks. But man, oh man, the run game really was the difference, including Drake May's ability to break, contain, come up with some chunk plays. But the Patriots are Super Bowl bound. We will react to this coming up on Locked On Patriots. Boy, oh boy, I can't freaking believe it.
We're going to transition to the other winner here in just a second with the Seahawks, but I'm going to warn people about something. The last time I saw a game where people said, I don't know how they're going to score points, it was when Seattle played Denver, because Seattle wasn't a wide open offense. They laid a 40 burger on Denver, and I think Denver had 9 points that game. So be careful thinking that because you saw them not score a bunch of points yesterday in a blizzard. I've seen all the takes already on social media, my brother, talking about how are they going to score points against that defense. You know what? If you didn't think that before yesterday, don't be looking at the blizzard thinking that that's the reason they're not going to score points. The game's going to be in Santa Clara, okay? But Julian, Seattle is very good. They're the team that I thought had the best defense in the league. And even if it wasn't necessarily from a personnel standpoint, it's from a standpoint of they force you to try to rush and score points, and they can rush the passer, and they play well on the back end. They won a big game yesterday. We'll get to the losers in just a second, but here's Corbin Smith from Locked On Seahawks talking about the Seahawks' big victory in front of the 12.
The Seahawks are Super Bowl bound. 31-27 victors over the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game. Sam Darnold, all the critics out there, officially silenced once and for all. Threw for over 300 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, all while playing at less than 100% after being in and out of practice this week with an oblique injury. Was in complete command from the start, hit Rashid Shaheed on a 51-yard completion on the first drive. Had another drive with a 42-yard pitch and catch downfield down the seam to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Even when the Rams were getting hits on him, he was finding ways to complete passes and threw touchdowns to 3 different receivers. Smith-Njigba.
Listen, Sam Darnold is a game manager, but he is a game manager with the talent and the arm talent of a dude that needs to be considered in the top 25% of this league. So don't get it twisted. Just because you're a game manager, it doesn't mean that you don't have the kind of talent that he has to be able to deliver those balls that he does.
Yeah, and like everyone looks at game manager as a pejorative, which it doesn't have to be. Your job as a quarterback is to manage the game, to stay on schedule, and to make the plays that you're asked to make. And it's simple as that for a guy like Sam, who on Sunday certainly was more than a game manager. I thought he was outstanding. The biggest game of his life, he played up to the level. And you kind of think back to the last month, like against the Rams, the second time around when they played that game in Seattle. I thought he had his mistakes, those 2 turnovers, but then was able to lead them to win that game in that comeback. Special teams made a huge play with the Rashid Shaheed return, but then you look at just how he played in some of the other games against San Francisco when they were able to win that game prior to the playoffs. He's stepped up in these moments. And when you look at Sam, it doesn't have to be him making all the plays. Like, football is a team game. We make too much out of the quarterback. We put too much of the credit, which may be happening right now. But I think people are looking back at his journey from with the Jets down to Carolina to being a backup in San Francisco to a season ago in Minnesota to now where he's at with Seattle going to the Super Bowl. It is an awesome story for Sam to have overcome everything he's been through and to mature to this point where he can get his team to this moment. But, man, he's been in a situation the last 2 years that have suited him to where he's not asked to do everything. You look at the defense in Seattle this year, you talk about, are they the best defense? Well, statistically, looking at EPA per play, they're number 1 in the league. Minnesota a season ago was number 3. So Sam has had 2 top 3 defenses to lean on the last couple of seasons. He's had 2 outstanding receivers in Jackson Smith-Njigba this past year, who led the NFL in receiving, and then Justin Jefferson the year prior. He's been able to just go out there and to do his 111th and not have to be Superman. And when they've needed him to be great, as we saw on Sunday, he's found a way to do that, to rise to the occasion. So I give the guy a ton of credit. I have certainly been a critic of Sam Darnold because of the turnovers. I've never questioned his talent. I look back to that game against Penn State in the Rose Bowl, and that's the guy I thought Sam Darnold potentially could be. Then he came back that next year, and we saw the turnovers. And even this season, he led the NFL in turnovers. So it's not something that's gone away, but he's been able to be buoyed by some of the other pieces around him because it's a team game, and that has not cost Seattle. So good for Sam and for everybody that's been behind him over the last couple of years for him to get this opportunity. And, you know, I mean, I want to see Drake May win it, but if he wins, that's awesome to go see that happen as well.
Yeah, it is awesome. I think the funniest thing is when you hear people say stuff, and by the way, I got a new word, pejorative, right? Because here's the thing. People will go, yeah, man, he has a great receiver. He's got 2 good running backs when they're healthy, real good offensive line, great defense. You got to put all that stuff around him. That's your job. I don't care who the quarterback is. Don't we say Lamar Jackson never had a number one receiver? Don't we say that Joe Burrow has never had a great defense and a great offensive line? Aren't we now saying, and I say we as a collective, saying that Josh Allen was let down by his terrible defense? I mean, come on, man. That's the job of an organization, to build a team up around a quarterback. It's not just to let the quarterback get drafted and go out there all unprotected and without insulation.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like, do you think about some of the great teams in the NFL? Like, didn't Steve Young have Jerry Rice? I mean,
kind of had him too, by the way.
Didn't Troy Aikman have Emmitt Smith? I mean, Mike, like, there's guys, they had great players
Brady
around
had
them.
Gronk. Brady had Gronk and a whole bunch of Hall of Famers on defense. Come on, man. I mean, what are we doing here, right? As if John Wooden was just coaching a whole bunch of backups when he won 11 straight championships at UCLA. Like, Duke didn't get no one and dones. Come on, Michael Jordan and Kobe and Shaq and Pippen, they never played for Phil Jackson. You feel me? Come on, man. Y'all need to stop that foolishness, man. We'll talk more about – we got to get to the losers, man. We'll get to them on the other side here and talk about why they won't take field goals. I don't know why nobody will learn their lesson, but we'll talk about it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now's the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections, no drafts, no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs. It is incredibly easy to get started with Prize Picks. Pick two or more players and choose more or less on their projections, and then watch what happens. Ching, 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 ching. If you're right, download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time. With Robinhood prediction markets, it's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell positions live all game long. You use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, we're moving and grooving here with my man Julian Council from Locked On Panthers. And we're going to continue to talk about the championship games yesterday. The Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Seahawks is already set. And the reason why it got that way is because, well, Denver lost. And we kind of expected them to lose with Jarrett Stidham. The game started out really, really well for the Broncos. And then they could have gone up 10-0. And I guarantee, I'm going to tell you right now, at the time that they did it, I wasn't sitting here going, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But I kind of was, because they weren't able to run the ball. And I hate teams that have to pass the ball on 4th and 1. But they should have gone up 10-0, even if they just had to consult a meteorologist, because the bad weather was moving in. And once the weather moved in, points were at a premium. The Patriots got their field goal, though, as both teams exchanged missed field goals. Let's hear from Locked On Locked On Broncos about the loss, and then we'll come back and discuss field goals.
The Denver Broncos' awesome 2025 season has officially come to a close in the AFC Championship game. The Broncos fell 10-7 to the New England Patriots and just couldn't quite overcome both the loss of Bo Nix and the elements. And you can't help but wonder, is Sean Payton going to second guess himself for not taking the points when he had the opportunity when the weather was not a factor? The Broncos up 7-0, gave up and passed on the opportunity to take what would have been a pretty easy chip shot field goal for Will Lutz, instead trying to go for it on 4th down, really trying to take control of the game, and they just couldn't quite pick it up, and the Patriots end up winning the game by 3 points. And certainly it was a great season for the Denver Broncos, dominating defense, and they played awesome defensively in this game. But once again, you go back to the drawing board on the offensive side of the ball, pass catchers, an issue. And obviously we all look at the health of Bo Nix, who seems to be on the right trajectory after his ankle injury.
When you consider their only touchdown was a gift from Jarrett Stidham on a backward pass that you just should have eaten the sack. You weren't going to get out of that situation without punting.
Yeah,
it really hurts they didn't take those points early.
Yeah, it's 4th and 1 from the 14. I mean, no one's kicking the field goal in that situation in the NFL nowadays. So I'm not going to sit here after the fact and act as if Sean Payton made some egregious mistake, because no one was sitting there being like, take the points. Maybe someone who's in their 70s, who's been watching football for a long time and hates all this analytic stuff, doesn't understand it. I'm not trying to be ageist here, but I'm just saying, no coach in the league is expected to kick the field goal in that situation. And certainly you have to have the foresight of, okay, it's going to snow, it's going to be bad, they know it's going to come. But come on, man. Like, they didn't think that was going to be their last opportunity down there to potentially get points. And they didn't think that, again, 4th and 1 for 14, that they were making a bad decision. I don't think Sean Payton made a mistake. I think if you want to question anything, maybe the play call, they didn't execute, didn't get it done. And yeah, it was a bad turnover. It was a flea flicker that they called in the snow. New England did. That was that lone explosive play in the second half of the Pats that set up that field goal. And even when Denver got back in field goal range, it wasn't like he missed it because of the elements. It was a block kick. And who knows? Maybe Will Lutz makes that kick in the snow, and we're sitting there. I mean, they may still be playing, considering how the elements were on Sunday. Like, I don't know anyone was going to be able to find a way to score later on in that game. So yeah, I don't look at Sean Payton as making a massive mistake. I just think that that's what coaches do nowadays, and
it is what they do. And I think the mistake is that's what they all do. And I get why they don't do it, because there was even Jacksonville Jaguar players yesterday, Travis Etienne Jr. He said points are a premium during the playoffs. Well, guess what? Liam Cohen didn't take a field goal, and they lost by 3 points. So it never, if you lose by 3, or if you're the Rams and you don't take a field goal early and you end up losing by 4, well, if you're taking the field goal early and then when you're driving late in the game and you get to the 40-yard line, you really got like 15 yards to go before you can attempt another field goal. That's why chasing these points, it just makes it harder on you when you get towards the end of the game. And I get it. Hindsight is what they say, 20/20, I guess.
Yeah.
But right now, the Rams and the Broncos are sitting at home wondering what would happen. But you know what? They're probably not, because these coaches, they double down on that stuff, man. And they were like, nope, it was a full go, 100%. I knew what I was doing. Here's Travis Rogers for Locked On Rams talking about their season ending.
The Rams lose 31-27 in the NFC Championship game, and just 2 mistakes too many. The end of the first half handled incredibly poorly, and of course the huge mistake by Xavier Smith in special teams, giving Seattle a short field to do it. Lots to get into, lots of second guessing to get into, and of course, where do you go from here? Doug and I will be all over it, Locked On Rams. Don't miss it. We'll see you guys soon after a very, very bummer of an NFC Championship.
It was a real good game. This one and the Thursday night game. It made up for some lackluster games that we until we got to those cold weather games. All of those games to me had been really, really good. Even the Bears and last week against the Rams. But it's just that the Rams kind of, when they lost games this year, they lost them just like that. It's like self-inflicted wounds and bad special teams play.
Yeah, and you can kind of look at the muff punt, because Seattle scores on the next play. I think it was Sam Darnold, Jake Bobo. And you can maybe cancel that out with the Reek Woolen situation, where he has a taunting penalty, which you hate to see called in that situation. I'm guessing if he doesn't step onto the Rams sideline and cross the white, maybe that does not get called and they let that go. And then on the very next play, it's Stafford to Puka Nacua. So maybe the muff punt in that situation. For Seattle, kind of cancels the other out. But certainly I look at the end of the half, like Travis mentioned, like I don't know what they were doing there defensively to allow that touchdown to happen. You had all the momentum. You're going to go in the half with the lead, and you let Seattle go down the field and score to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who, how is he that wide open in that situation? And then, yeah, like there's people I know last night when the Rams were down the field, the last time they really had the ball, and they were down, had an opportunity to kick a field goal, get it within one, and there would still be about 4.5 minutes left on the clock. I'm thinking to myself, man, yeah, it's 4th and 6. Like, that's tough. But, like, knowing McVay, they're going to go for it here. So I didn't really have a problem with it. I think the issue for the Rams is, why did they not go for 2 back in the third quarter? Because had they gone for 2 in the third quarter, then all they would have needed was a field goal in that situation late in the fourth quarter instead. And you look at it, okay, had they kick a field goal, it wasn't like they were getting up the field on that final possession that Seattle had. So they still would have had basically no time at all to even get set a field goal. So I think the issue was not them deciding to go for it there at the end. It was that they didn't go for 2 earlier in the game in the third quarter when it made all the sense in the world to do it. Especially you go for it at that point in time because you want to know what you need. And they knew they needed a touchdown. So that's why they felt like they had to go for it on that 4th and 6, where had they attempted it before, whether they got it or not, a field goal could have been a possibility in tying that game. But who knows? Maybe McVay still would have gone for it, thinking, okay, well, we can get the ball back and still have a chance to kick a field goal later on to tie the game.
Yeah, maybe so. I will say this, though. I'm going to give kudos to Seattle for the way that they handled that last drive. After the turnover on downs, they actually threw the ball a couple of times. They tried to win. Yeah, they were that sure. Instead of sitting there letting the clock wind down to them holding the trophy, they said, no, we're going to go get it. And that's exactly what they did. And they bled the clock. And to me, it's another feather in the cap to Mike Macdonald. All right, let's talk about some teams that didn't make the playoffs. One of them had to watch a quarterback that they picked, I believe, number 2 overall, have so much success on this stage. Bad teams that ruin or alter the legacy and the path of quarterbacks. We'll talk about that, and whether the Dallas Cowboys can make some noise next year. We'll hit that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, man. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper, but it wasn't the right fit, and you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Use Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, let's run it down and get to it. Sam Darnold, at one point, played for the Minnesota Vikings last year. I think he won 14 games, maybe 15.
Yes, they won 14.
Won 14, 15, 16, however many it is this year so far, and he got one more to go to get him a trophy. His path that Julian mentioned earlier was altered when he came out of USC, as so many young quarterbacks' paths get altered by bad teams like the Jets. And then he has to go through multiple car washes before he gets to Minnesota last year. And then even they didn't believe in him because he had a bad game, which customarily good quarterbacks do. And now he's one game away from being a Super Bowl champion. And he made it very, very clear. Nothing is making him more happy than doing it with the guys that he's doing it with. I'll tell you something that'll make him happier than that. He could still be somewhere else doing it with somebody else. And John Bushko could be talking about him because he could still be playing for the Jets. Here's John Briscoe talking about the inevitable outlook that the Jets have for finding their leader behind center.
If you look at the 4 teams that are playing this coming weekend, really only one of them got their quarterback through a high draft pick after a dismal season. That was New England 2 years ago when they stumbled and they ended up with the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft and picked Drake May. It was a good parting gift by Bill Belichick in his final year as Patriots head coach. And now 2 years later, they are on the cusp of the Super Bowl. And I think it's very tempting for Jets fans to look at that model and say, well, that's the only way you can get a good quarterback. You have a terrible season, you get a high draft pick, you pick a quarterback, and everything's okay. Of course, it's not that simple.
All right, so we playing the hits because I've actually played that clip before, but I played it because today I think it's so appropriate. Since then, the Jets have drafted another quarterback with the 2nd overall pick who is no longer on the team. And then they gave another quarterback $20 million a year, and I don't think he's going to be on the team much longer. Now they're looking for a quarterback again in a draft where they're not picking number 1, and there's not really a second quarterback in the draft. Perpetually bad things seem to happen to bad ownership and bad organizations, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, they've had Sam Darnold. They got him 3rd overall. They had Zach Wilson 2nd overall. I mean, they had Mark Sanchez, and he had a terrific defense. They went to back-to-back AFC championships back in 2010 and 2011. So, I mean, they've tried to go out there and to get a young quarterback high in the draft, and they have failed time and time again, and that's just an organizational failure. I don't think that Robert Saleh necessarily is a bad coach. I do think that him and Joe Douglas clearly made a mistake by taking Zach Wilson, who profited off of a year where BYU could not play any of the power conference teams that they used to play as an independent. This is prior to them joining the Big 12, so they're beating up on a bunch of bad teams, and people are thinking Zach Wilson's something, but he clearly was not that guy and never will be. Unfortunately for him, he's got the money, so he'll be able to dry his tears with that. But he's also from Utah, so it wasn't like he was broke anyways. So yeah, I mean, the Jets have made just time and time mistakes. Like for Sam, like he was there under Adam Gase. And Adam Gase from the first press conference, and we've had some weird press conferences with some of these coaches. Look at Nick Sirianni. But Gase, man, was never the right guy for him. And then when Sam came to Carolina, like it felt like it was a better situation. Like I sat here, that was the first year I was here on Locked On. The first episode I ever did of of Locked On Panthers was saying why the Panthers shouldn't trade for Sam Darnold, and they still did it. But they didn't have the structure around Sam when he came down. They had offensive line injuries. McCaffrey was injured. I mean, Joe Brady was still a young play caller. It was a first-time player caller, actually, in the NFL. It was a second year's play caller. So it just didn't work out for Sam. And then the Panthers didn't buy into him past one season. Like when you give up 3 draft picks and you pick up a guy's 5th-year option, you got to be sold to have him for at least 2 years as your starter, and they didn't do that. So I always wonder, at least for Carolina, had you been all in on Sam that second year, do things work out? Probably not, because Scott Fitterer was never going to be long for this job as a GM. Matt Rule had no business coaching an NFL team, so they're probably going to fail regardless. But he finally got to Shanahan, who knows what he's doing. Got to Kevin O'Connell, who knows what he's doing. Got to a Mike Macdonald, Clint Kubiak as a play caller, who knows what he's doing. So he finally got to a spot where he had good coaches and good general managers, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah up there in Minnesota. You look at John Lynch, what he's done in San Francisco. John Snyder has been fantastic, probably the best general manager of the last decade in the NFL up there in Seattle. And what do you know? He's got good teams around him, good players around him, good coaches around him, and now he's having success. So, yeah, the Jets organizationally, bad owner. They choose bad coaches. They can't get the right players, can't develop them. It's going to continue to happen as long as Woody Johnson's the owner there, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Jets don't seem to do anything right. They have a counterpart, though, the Dallas Cowboys. They do a lot right. Dallas drafts really good players. You don't believe me? Michael Parsons is up in Green Bay. He got hurt. He might have been the reason why they didn't make it to where they were supposed to go. And DeMarcus Lawrence, who they also picked, is an all-pro, and now he's going back. The problem is neither one of those guys still play for Dallas. That goes to management and team building. Hopefully they made a good decision. I think they did with their hiring of Christian Parker as the defensive coordinator. Dallas might be a team you got to watch out for next year if they can get out of their own way. Here's the boys from Locked On Cowboys.
You and I really were hoping that the Cowboys would hire somebody that had a background in the secondary, in coverage, right? Because we felt like it's a lot easier just to get a bunch of dudes up front to rush the passer. It's a lot harder to get the coverage part of this to work. And I think that's why I'm encouraged by this, because this is somebody who was a former secondary coach, was a defensive backs coach. I
this is the type of hire we've been wanting to see for a long time now. Again, he's going to be pretty raw. It might take some time. It might take a year, but the reviews from everybody you talk to are outstanding. They all believe this is a future head coach. Now that comes with its own set of challenges, Landon.
Yeah.
We talked about how that could be an issue, but if Christian Parker ends up becoming a head coach, it means things went pretty well here in Dallas.
Christian Parker is probably more qualified at this point than Anthony Campanile was, who's the linebackers coach for the Packers the year prior. Probably has a little bit more responsibility. They both come from the Vic Fangio tree. I think he's going to get off to a really, really good start. The thing is though, are they going to allow him to do what he needs to do and he can't get meddled with from people who don't wear a whistle around their neck?
Well, Jerry's always going to be involved. We know that. I mean, he's at least going to talk. I don't think he's necessarily telling guys what scheme they need to run and who needs to play and all of that. I just kind of go back to DeMarcus Lawrence back in March. He said he left Dallas because he knew he was never going to win a Super Bowl there. And what do you know? 1 year later, I mean, less than a year later, he's going to go play for a Super Bowl while we're talking about the Cowboys who, I mean, they, goodness, man, I don't know how,
Bro, they do so much right that we talk about. They draft good players. They know who can get it. They play like dogs. But for some reason, man, it never happens, Julian.
Not at my lifetime, at least. I'm turning 33 here soon, and yeah, it has not been happening for the Dallas Cowboys. Like if a player and DeMarcus Lawrence, who said my home is going to be in Dallas. Like I love my time with the Cowboys. I knew I was never going to win a Super Bowl there. If he is saying it, then how am I going to sit here after what's occurred over the last 24 hours and over really the last season and disagree? So if a dude who spent a lifetime, wants to spend the rest of his lifetime in Dallas, believes that they don't have a chance, and well, I don't think anything's going to change.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to be looking at these games all week, looking at coaches who there's still 4 jobs open. When we started recording this, Grant Udinski has removed his name from consideration for the Cleveland Browns job. So somebody's going to coach the Browns next year. We just don't know who it's going to be.
Sure about that? Are we sure?
Yeah, I know. Maybe Andrew Berry will do it. Who knows? Maybe Deshaun Watson or somebody. I don't know. Maybe they'll let Shador do it. I don't know. We'll see how that turns out, man. But make sure you tap into the Everydayer Club, the show, whatever show you listen to the most. Go down in the description or wherever you watch or listen. Tap in. You can get access to our audio shows that are ad-free, as well as to our merch and even more stuff by joining the Everydayers Club. It doesn't affect what happens here every day because it's your team every day here on Locked On NFL, Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Carolina Panthers, all of that stuff, man. The guys will be there each and every day, even in all seasons. So we'll see you later. For Julian Council and Tony Wiggins, thank you for joining us. We out. Yes, sir.